Hello, welcome to Adobe Live. I'm so excited that you're joining us today. If we haven't met yet, I am Jordan Danae Ellis, Community Manager for Adobe Express and small business owner for the past 12 years. And I'm so excited to be back with my co-host, Andy Lambert. Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Jordan. How are you?
Good, good. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about who you are and how you know so much about social media?
Yeah, we're all perpetual students in the world of social media, as you know. But I'm Andy. I'm one of the founders of a company called ContentCal, of which got acquired by Adobe 8 months ago now, I think. Yeah, I've totally lost track of the time now. But yeah, have spent the last 10 or so years in social media, and it's been our job to try our best, and it is a constant uphill battle to stay on top of everything that's happening in the world of social, which is why we now bring you this session every single month. So yeah, that's me. And here are our handles.
Yeah, and there are so many people in the chat. Hello, Laurie, Josh. Man, there's so many people. Please feel free to ask us your questions as we go. We'll answer as many as we can. Michelle, Penny, Crystal. We'll answer as many as we can during the stream, but we're also both here every week on Adobe Live and also in the Adobe Express Insiders Facebook group. So if you have any questions that we don't get to, or you are watching this not live, feel free to hop in there because we'll answer as many questions as we can.
Let's do it. So yeah, we've got a lot to go through today, and I think we're both pretty excited about this one because whilst August actually hasn't been as heavy in terms of like the feature updates, it has been really heavy in terms of like data and trends that we're going to go through. So we'll probably end up spending about half the session on that. So let's dive into the screen share actually. So let's then run you through it. So here are our handles anyway. So yeah. We've just gone through a bit of a rebranding exercise, haven't we, Jordan? So I think, yeah, go on, explain.
Well, so something that I think any social media expert would tell you day one is to like have your handles be the same place everywhere. And we both didn't do that. So now we are. So I am Jordan Danae Ellis all over the internet on every platform that I'm on. And same thing with you, right? You're the same everywhere, or no?
I took your lead basically. Okay. I thought that looks so beautifully consistent that you don't have to put in like ends up looking like a paragraph where people can have to follow you on different handles on different channels. So yeah.
Pro tip 101. Yeah, if anyone else is in the same, it's just very easy to say that instead of like, especially if you are a brand or business owner and you want folks to follow you places, it's a lot easier to say this is my company everywhere than like on Facebook, I'm this, on Twitter, I'm this, on Instagram, I'm this. So exactly. Sometimes you might have to change it though. Like I had a different, I mean, if you've watched old videos, I had a different handle that was too long for Twitter. So I had to change I had to change everywhere. So sometimes that is part of the process too.
It really is. It really is. So the focus of today is the same every single month. If you joined one of these, welcome back. If this is before, then welcome back. But if this is your first time, the idea of this session is to bring you up to speed with everything that's happened over the month of August. We do this at the end, the final Thursday of every single month. And as I said, like a huge amount has happened. But the idea of this session, and I'm a bit like a broken record when I say this, I say this every time we run one of these sessions, but it's so important to express this every time, is that the idea of this session is not to make us feel like we're missing out on loads of stuff, get loads of FOMO, and for us to feel overwhelmed by the changes, because there is stuff happening all the time. The idea of this session is for just once a month you can sit back with your chosen drink of choice. There'll be no judgment here. So whatever you need for over the next hour, we'll then give you all of the main data points, the trends, and all of the features that have changed in the world of social that you need to know, so you can feel empowered to go, right, actually, I don't need to do everything. I can just make tactical, subtle tweaks to my strategy to make sure that we're completely aligned with where our opportunities are for growth moving forward. And a lot of our focus, because Jordan and I's backgrounds from a small business perspective, a lot of our focus is around organic social media. And when we say organic, we talk about stuff that you don't have to pay for. So the idea here is really to help small businesses find those opportunities for growth that are outsized opportunities in terms of how much they actually cost. So most of the stuff is free of charge. So really, we want to just show you and empower you with all of the things and little tactics that you can do to try and drive sustainable growth. Because there's that word, before we move on to it, sustainable growth is such an important thing. I think Jordan and I are completely aligned on this, is that what you won't find in any of our stuff is like how to go viral quickly. That's what you're here for. We're going to disappoint you, because really we're about sustained growth, because that's the thing that really drives business growth over the long term. We don't want to go viral. We don't want to be a one-hit wonder. We want to drive consistent forward momentum. And that's the idea of this session. I don't know if you want to add anything to that narrative as well, Jordan.
Well, one, I do agree with all of that. And two, we actually have a related question already, which is,
Love it.
What is, yeah, I know. Thanks, chat. What is the impact of social media change in the graphics design industry? So that's obviously very specific, but like, I feel like also, what is the impact of social media change? Because like, that's why we do these videos every month. Things are, I mean, like you said in the intro, like the world of social media is changing all the time. And I think that's sort of going to be the case probably forever, because it's, you know, it's online, the internet's changing, social media is changing. But that's also like why we're doing these monthly updates, because it's overwhelming to keep track. So if you have been watching along, or if you decide to watch along in the future, you can start seeing trends as they're going, instead of like, oh no, I turned around and now everything's about video and I didn't realize that. So for me, that's the importance, is like being able to slowly pivot or like adjust your strategy as something feels like it's heading a certain direction, instead of realizing that, you know, the strategy you've planned is no longer the best one and kind of having to start over.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because there is a lot of bewildering social media advice out there where it's like, oh, it's all about this, or it's all about this now, and suddenly that doesn't matter and this does. What you'll find is much more kind of pragmatic advice here. But the impact of social media change, whether it's on the graphic design business or whether it's on infrastructure or travel, it's huge, right? Because fundamentally it connects 58% of the whole world's population are on social media. Nothing connects us like this technology.
Wow.
And any type of shift has marked impact, has macro effects for any type of industry. So, you know, I can't really understate how important thinking about what the direction of travel of social media. And that's it's actually a really good segue into the trends element, because, you know, your point is so bang on, Jordan, about, you know, looking at what's coming down the track, not just thinking about reactive tactical stuff, because we want to be able to chart our course to go, right, if that makes sense for my business and my audience, then that's the way that social is heading, then that's the course we're going to start charting. That's the idea. And talking of this, and you'll get lots of charts today. So sorry for some of the bamboozling slides you're going to see. I'm going to talk you through them just to kind of give you the kind of key takeaways. But I wanted to kind of keep the raw slides so you can see, you know, where these have come from as well, because my job is really just about sourcing all of this from across the interweb as I find it. So,
well, and to that point, a replay is available on whatever platform you're watching on. And also you can screenshot stuff too. I do that lots of times when I'm watching videos of like, oh, I want to remember this graph. So feel free to take screenshots or come back and revisit this, because yeah, there is a lot. And like we said too, this is not to be overwhelming. So feel free to like pay extra attention to the platforms you are on, and please don't feel like you need to be on all of them. I am certainly not. So not to be overwhelming, just to give you everything that's out there, and then you can curate your own like version of what works for you out of this.
100%. Yeah, no, very, very smart words. So thinking about the direction of travel of social, a great place to start is the teen usage of social media. You might look at this initially and go, well, I don't target teens, so why does this matter? This is always the way that technology progresses, certainly within a social media context, is that typically social media platforms get adopted by the younger demographic, gets steadily older, then it gets adopted by businesses, and it just becomes like a mainstream communication platform. So where teens consumption is now tends to be a really good barometer for where the growth, which platforms will grow the most in the future and which will become more widely adopted. There'll be quite a lot of demographical stuff that we'll talk about, which really helps us orientate between which platforms we should be focusing more on. So The high level here, if I direct your attention over to the left, what you're going to notice is that teen consumption of Facebook has dropped significantly. I don't think if you followed the media at all and anything that's happening in the media around Facebook, that won't be a surprise to you at all. Does not mean Facebook is dying. We'll talk to some other data that will kind of balance this out a little bit. But from a teen perspective, naturally the future growth potential of Facebook looks a bit lower, doesn't look as rosy as it used to. But what we have seen is significant growth across Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. But the thing really that I want to call out here is look at YouTube. 95% of online teens use YouTube. Absolutely massive. And typically, whilst we all are aware of YouTube, it's one of those platforms that really isn't a mainstay of most people's social media strategies. YouTube tends to be considered a little bit outside of core social, where many people focusing on Instagram as their primary social platform. And actually, if you look onto the right-hand side, when you look at the amount of teens that are using YouTube almost constantly, but at least 77% of them are using it every single day. So that is incredible usage. And unsurprisingly, TikTok is the thing that follows it, and Snapchat. So from a younger demographic perspective, yes, if we're targeting a younger audience, clearly those platforms are right for us. But what it also does is help us get a bit of a perspective on which platforms will be growing the most in future, where we're thinking about how we might evolve our strategies in the future. This gives us a bit of a clue where Facebook might be diminishing in importance, where YouTube and TikTok might be rising in importance. So that's my take on this data. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts you want to chime in with here, Jordan.
Just like you said at the beginning, like if you're not targeting teens, like if that's not what your brand or business is going after, like if that's not your target audience, I think it is just important to pay attention to what the next generation is doing, because even like they'll grow up, and so one, like they may be your target audience later. And also just watching, I feel like just watching what younger generations are doing, like they affect older generations too. So I mean, I don't interact with teens online very much, but a lot of these things have led to the types of trends that we're talking about. Like, Snapchat and TikTok, I think really have affected a lot of other platforms that my audience is on. So even if you're not thinking about this age demographic, really, I think it's just a nice thing to pay attention to.
Yeah, and the point that you raised about consumption behaviors, we're going to talk around some data around that in a second, but it's such a good point to call out that we'll come back to. But to balance it up, so let's look now in our age range, which gives a bit of a wide age range so no one can guess exactly how old we are, between 26 to 39 millennials. So yeah, unfortunately, Jordan and I fall in that camp. So actually then, if you look at here, 16% of that audience, so the majority, what this data does exclude, I need to call out, it excludes YouTube, which is actually the most used platform. It was considered outside of social media for this data, which is a bit annoying.
Oh,
but either way, underneath YouTube, which as we'll show has some of the most balanced demographics across all of the social platforms, Facebook is still the one that's used the most and cited as the favorite for that audience between 26 to 39. And as we know, I think for many organizations, they are a key segment. So, whilst it might be popular in the media to say, oh, what's happening to Facebook? It's disappearing. They still have over 3 billion monthly active users. It's not going anywhere. And actually, there's some really positive statistics pointing towards some growth potential on Facebook too, which will kind of buck some trends around, we've typically been seeing organic reach drop on Facebook and it becoming harder and harder to reach our audience on Facebook. There's some signs that this might be changing. So that's exciting. We'll cover that. So this then talks to your point here about this data. This is actually UK orientated data, but actually having had a look at this in previous months for the US, it follows a very similar pattern. And this talks to the consumption habits, particularly driven by teens, and why all of the social platforms are falling over themselves to start pivoting towards video, which is a very important thing for us to all know for our strategies, because it absolutely has a big impact on video. Short form video in particular has a really big impact in terms of our content choices and our strategies moving forward. But to give you an idea on this, I want to call out just 3 pieces from this. Firstly, once again, YouTube, not only incredibly popular in the teen demographic and in millennials, you'll see it has the most balanced mix of different demographics and the highest propensity and highest distribution of 65 plus year olds. So we've not just focused on like teens, but we're also focusing on the older demographic here. So it's so balanced in terms of the mix. So 52% of online adults that are over 65 still use YouTube. So it's really good, and it gives us an opportunity to really think about how many audience members we can reach on that as a platform. Once again, Facebook has really good reach across demographics again. So as you can see, really nicely balanced here. So Facebook, once again, growing well within millennials, within 26 to 39-year-olds. And it works well across all of the demographics here. And you can see that they have a high potential to watch short form video. And it's short form video that's driving a lot of growth on Facebook at the moment too. So that then is a bit of a clue for us if we want to build our audiences on Facebook. If we potentially have a slightly older demographic that we're targeting, Facebook and YouTube are definitely the right places for that. And maybe thinking about pivoting our strategy towards short form video will yield some results here. And I'll share some data that further kind of backs up that as a hypothesis anyway. Instagram and TikTok, no surprises here. So this 15 to 17 bucket, i.e. like it skews younger. Short form video consumption very high on these platforms. Yes, it skews younger, but as an overall total addressable audience, it is smaller. But fundamentally, as the main takeaway I take away from this is YouTube, Facebook, if you've got, a slightly older demographic you're targeting, they should be front and center. Instagram and TikTok, if you're targeting younger demographic, that would be the place to go. But across all four of them, the main takeaway, the thing that actually is making our content strategies easier is that all of them have a short form video proposition now. YouTube Shorts, Facebook and Instagram Reels, and obviously TikTok. So actually there's a lot of content repurposing that can happen now. And that now gives us an opportunity to actually not have to worry too much about creating a certain type of content for this platform versus another. Actually optimizing towards short form video across all of these platforms gives us an opportunity to drive growth. That's the kind of main takeaway I have from this one. But Jordan, conscious I've been talking a lot on this slide, so
no, that's great. The chat is actually one, I think it's a great call to look at the spikes. Like you said, YouTube is like relatively consistent across all ages, which is important if you aren't targeting a certain age demographic, or maybe that's like a good sign that that's a great platform to pay attention to, just because it seems to be working for everyone, and that's interesting. We have some folks feeling their age in the chat, talking about never having gotten on Snapchat, how that was Instagram stories before there were Instagram stories, which I feel like is that's, we're seeing that in lots of things where one platform turns into something else. Someone was asking, are these stats just for the UK? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, so this is just for the UK, but like I said, because I didn't find any of this data for August, but when I've looked at this data that's been released a few months ago for the US, it followed a very similar pattern. So that's typically consumption behaviors between the US and the UK are remarkably similar. I can't speak for other geographies though.
Kirsten was saying this is wild because overall I've been seeing TikTok as the leader for millennials, and I wonder why it's hotter in the US and Africa versus the UK. Because TikTok is still popular for millennials, even if younger folks are more on it.
Yeah, TikTok, the demographic is starting to get older, but naturally, that takes time. That is the maturing of a platform. If we had looked at this data last year on TikTok, we would have seen these lines, other than this green one, be very, very small. So now as a platform matures, it's just its natural cycle where it gets adopted by teens, they love it, and then gradually it then grows across those different demographics. So we start to see those other lines grow, and at some point, as it fully matures, then it looks like YouTube and Facebook, really. And that would be the ideal, because you can't build a sustainable business if you're only focusing and only get consumption from like teen and really young users, naturally it needs to make that transition to across the demographics, and TikTok is successfully on that journey. Otherwise you turn up into Snapchat, who are just looking to make $500 million of cost savings right now, because their growth is nowhere near what it was projected to be, 5 years ago when it was the latest, hottest thing. They haven't successfully bridged into older demographics, which typically is where a lot of the money's at when it comes from businesses and advertising and all that stuff. So that's my take on that. Right, the latest trend. So very rare do we get to speak about a brand new social platform. So here's a question for everyone who's watching live. Who has heard of BeReal and who has used it? Jordan, you can probably put your hand up at this point.
So I heard about this I don't remember which month it was, but I heard about BeReal for the first time in one of these recaps. And I was like, okay, wow, I didn't realize I was that out of touch. Like I literally do this for my job. There's a whole platform I've never heard of. And it's come up like once or twice in my life since. So thank you, Andy, for making me like know what's cool. Because I definitely wouldn't have heard of it otherwise. And so I decided, I was like, okay, not another social platform. Like I literally cannot do this. But what I will say, I signed up this week. So I guess I'm one of the 10 million users that have shown up lately. I will say, at least in my experience so far, having been on it for a week, the stakes are so low, and the effort that it asks of you, I think at least, is very minimum. Like it reminds me of Snapchat kind of, where like, but even less. I can let you explain it, but you get one chance to post, that's it. And it's intended to be in the moment. So there's no staging. There's no like, let me find the perfect photo. So the pressure's off for me. I've been doing it just for fun, but yeah, I think I have like 6 friends on it. It's not in my circle, at least. It's not there yet, but it's interesting. I'm curious, if anyone in the chat has heard of it or is on it, because that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I think the jury's out as far as I'm concerned as to whether this will stand the test of time. It's definitely got the novelty factor going for it. It's the antithesis of the kind of Instagram aesthetic and all of the kind of mental health challenges that have been widely publicized from, presenting the supposed perfect life on social. So it's, BeReal, it's about authenticity. I guess I'm a little more cynical because I actually just think it's a brilliant growth hack, because every day everyone gets a notification to post. So I think it's actually more anxiety inducing than anything else, because
the thing is, you can skip it,
that's true.
You can also post late. I've learned, I'm not really sure. Like, I guess it outs you as posting late, but other than that, I think I haven't seen any like negative to that. Oliver is saying it didn't really appeal, as I figured my post would mostly just be my desk or sofa. And honestly, that's very real. Like, because I'm the age I am, most of the posts I see are people sitting at their desk. So like, is it interesting? I don't know. I guess you kind of feel some like camaraderie that everyone's at work together, but I'm not really sure if I love it, but it's fun.
Yeah, so everyone's going to hear a lot more about this, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about it again, because it's just been funded very heavily, worth about $600 million now. Very similar story to Clubhouse, loads of media hype, loads of funding. So they'll be pushing hard on this it's now kind of lighting up the App Store downloads charts. The media have made a big deal about the fact, it's above Facebook apps, it's above TikTok from downloads of last week. Just having a week topping the downloads charts doesn't actually mean you suddenly got a successful platform. So sometimes we confuse like viral hits with long-term growth. We always do, to be honest. So my kind of counsel to this is, don't get too, feel free to test it out, definitely, because it is a content format that will persist, and I'll talk about that in a second. But like, don't fret that you're missing out on anything at the moment. It's very much in its kind of discovery phase, and as you said, Jordan, it feels like something for a younger demographic, and this is going to follow the same trajectory. Potentially it'll either follow the same trajectory of like crossing the chasm to the older demographics, or it will start to slowly diminish and do a Clubhouse. But the thing that will stay, however, is the quite cool content format that exists here. This is definitely the bit that's worthwhile paying attention to, which is, as you can see in this kind of screenshot here, it's the kind of dual camera mode where you're taking a photo of the thing you're doing, but also reacting to it. So it adds that real human element to the piece of content that you're creating. And you'll have seen, just last month we reported on Instagram releasing their dual mode, which essentially allows you to use both front and back cameras to take a photo and do this. So already the social platforms are cottoning onto this. There's going to be next month, I expect to be talking about Instagram having released this, which is Instagram doing exactly the same thing of this. Basically what they did to Snapchat, i.e. steal the stories format, I think they're going to do the same to BeReal, which I think is going to kill BeReal, to be honest, because Instagram, it fits so nicely into the Instagram space and the user demographic already. So I expect that to happen, but either way, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before, so it might well happen again. But definitely interesting to pay attention to, because that's a content format, the whole concept of authenticity. We can actually see this manifest in a product, which is really good. Right, I better start firing through some of these things. Because
sorry, I know I was
a lot of time
so much.
No, it's good because there's so much interesting stuff. Because this alone is worth 5 minutes of narrative, maybe. This was just one study from Hootsuite, but I wanted to call it out because Instagram themselves have come out and said that hashtags aren't what they used to be. They aren't as powerful as they used to be. We used to hear that, 30 hashtag stuffing into your Instagram post is the way to go. Instagram came out themselves and said, well, it's probably not as good as that. Probably not worthwhile doing it, maybe 2 or 3. And ever since Instagram came out and said that, having 2 or 3, and often we've reported 3 to 4 hashtags being the optimum, well chosen hashtags, relevant, obviously. But ever since then, Instagram have been working on using keywords. Basically, that sounds more glamorous than it actually is. It's basically using the words within your caption that portrays what you're actually talking about. So if you're talking about Vancouver, having Vancouver in the caption, it's not really rocket science. But where Instagram is evolving as a platform is getting better at reading the content that sits within your caption, so that just in the same way that Google has SEO and will pull sites to the top based on the search term, Instagram's getting better at doing this. Less people are searching through hashtags. So anyway, that's the context. Hootsuite ran a bit of a study to go, let's run an experiment here. Let's put exactly the same post out across these same platforms, or it's all Instagram, sorry, across Instagram at the same time, schedule them out, and let's just see what drove better reach. And in every single category across multiple different topics, as you can see here, the post, there was marginal difference, probably about 30% delta between the two. But ultimately, having 0 hashtags, but making sure you have the right keywords in the caption drove better results. Now, this is just one study. I urge caution to completely rip up your hashtag strategy, but it's definitely worthwhile considering. And if it were me, I'm going to still continue to use hashtags, but only use 3 or 4 of ones that are super relevant to whatever I'm talking about. And just making sure, maybe taking a bit of learning from this to have some of those keywords in your caption might be a good thing to do. That would be my take from this. But Jordan, what do you reckon?
I mean, I think hashtags are used for different things, and I'm by no means a hashtag expert. But for example, we have hashtags for the Adobe products that I scroll them and see people's projects. So I think there are if you're using it for SEO and searchability, I think this is great of what will show up in the feed. And I don't know if I'm one of the only people who actually follows hashtags and looks that way. So maybe that's not a massive use case, which I would totally buy. But I think there are certain, of the original idea of hashtags, which is everyone posting this kind of thing, do it here so we can all find each other. It seems like that would still be relevant. But if you're just sort of, I want people to know this happened in the city that I live in so that I show up in other local feeds, that probably is, a time to use it in your keywords instead. So
yeah, definitely. And
that, both.
Yeah, having a mixed strategy is good because, as you say, what I don't have any data on, I'd love to see it one day, which is like the amount of people that are using search on Instagram to actually drive discovery versus, as you say, the people that are following hashtags and want to do that. But certainly if I put my kind of business to business, like, you know, if we're promoting, you know, some like boring software product on Instagram, you want to make sure you've got the right keywords, because people aren't going to be following a hashtag of, you know, software products. They'll be wanting to potentially do the search around whatever product is that you're offering or the category that you operate in. So that's where hashtags can be really useful. But either way, the short story is start to think about having a mixed strategy between keywords and hashtags, and think about, if a user is searching your category, brand, whatever it might be, product line, whatever it might be, on Instagram, making sure that you have those keywords within your caption. That would be a smart move. Right, short form video content, we're back to it. We can't really go more than one slide without talking about short form video really these days. Three interesting call outs from here, because there's quite a lot of data here, so I'm just going to focus on the top three most interesting things. There's been a shift in what people are spending the most time watching from a short form video perspective. How-to videos are now the number one, where it used to be news, which is quite interesting. Certainly a lot of like the TikTok tips, that if you frequent TikTok as annoyingly regularly as I do, unfortunately gets its little tentacles into your life and you can't stop scrolling it. But like how-to videos, TikTok tips have ended up becoming like really popular. And of course, YouTube Shorts is driving a lot of that too, because naturally a huge proportion of YouTube views were always driven from how-to videos, people wanting to learn and improve. I also think that's a brilliant bit of data to cling on to, because helping other people get better at something is typically universally applicable to whatever business you're promoting. You know, whether you're a jewelry shop, teaching people how to make their own jewelry, or how to, you know, anything about that. You know, teaching them crafts, whether, you know, that's what I do about social media, teach people about social media, right? And talk about, and, you know, even though we're representing a social media product, how-tos, super valuable. So I love the fact that's number one. Second thing to call out is that the second most popular is like videos from the general public. Like, how dull does that sound? As like, you know,
I did see that on the slide and I was like, I don't know what this is.
What is that? Like, what is that? But I think the interesting thing, like when I thought about it some more, as I was kind of like dissecting this data, I was like, what does that actually mean? But the thing is, the reason that like TikTok has got so popular, it's turned social media on its head, where it's no longer about your friend graph of the people that follow you or you follow. It's all about recommended media. So actually, the majority of stuff that anyone's going to see in their TikTok feed, which is driving the majority of short form video consumption, you know, all you could say it's from the general public. They're just randomers that have just appeared in my feed, because no longer, as certainly as TikTok's concerned, and this is happening to Facebook and Instagram, is that increasingly it's becoming all about recommended media. It's less about followers. So in fact, you know, my hypothesis and my prediction is that the importance of followers as a general concept is going to decrease in importance over time. Don't let that thought change your strategy right now, but as all of the platforms get very scared by TikTok and what TikTok has done. TikTok, as I said, like, it's not about who you follow or who follows you. It's all about what the algorithm recommends, which then gives us all a really nice level playing field to grow, right? Because we've all got the potential to reach far more people than we have in our audience, which is great. Obviously, the downside, it does, you know, there are downsides to that, which we won't go into, but that's really what general public is all about. I just said there was three things, but oh yeah, news has slipped to the third, but we spoke about that already. But yeah, any thoughts on this before we move on, Jordan?
No, I think you covered it.
Cool.
Great job.
Right, nice. So they are your trends. My word, there's a lot of them. So let's now go into some of the data points. High level, really important thing here. So this is the number of brand interactions on Facebook and Instagram. So this is organic. So the amount of interactions we can expect per every 1,000 impressions. Simply put, for every 1,000 people that see your post on Facebook and Instagram, on average, how many interactions, so like, shares, and comments, how many interactions should we expect per 1,000 people? On Facebook, it's 5.24. Basically 0.5% of people are going to engage with your content. Not very high. Spoke about the diminishing organic reach, but the really good thing is that you can see it's creeped up a little bit. So Facebook, whilst it's nothing to get too excited about, this has been a constant declining metric for last 5, 6, 7 years. But because Instagram are pushing, Facebook, are pushing so hard on this whole recommended media side of things, pushing hard on Facebook Reels as well, it means that there's actually more potential to grow on Facebook than there has been in a long time. So that's really exciting. Still, Instagram, once again, that's gone up as well. So it's kind of reversed that downward trend. It's got a 6 times higher engagement rate than Facebook. We always have known that we can get better engagement on Instagram versus Facebook. But there you go, they're your averages. Now, that was Facebook versus Insta. So let's look at TikTok versus Insta. And this study, super interesting. So this was across 330 brand pages, which run both a TikTok and an Instagram. So comparing them side by side. So what you're going to see, Instagram share of posts. So typically, brands were posting, more than twice as much on Instagram versus TikTok, right? So as would probably be the case for most brands, TikTok gets more love than Insta. The reach, however, tells a slightly different story. The reach is slightly higher, nothing much, but ultimately, even though they're posting less on TikTok, the reach was slightly higher, where the reach went a little bit down on Insta. It goes down again when you look at interaction. It goes up significantly for TikTok. So what that actually means is that even though they're posting less on TikTok, they're generating outside reach and engagement. And then it's basically a completely inverse graph where you can see like the outsized engagement rate that was coming from TikTok versus Insta. So even though brands are focusing on TikTok far less, they're actually, in percentage terms, generating far better interactions and far better reach. So that's
so wild.
Cool, isn't it? It's a really good level playing field to look at. Just goes to show how powerful TikTok is. Talking of short form video, Reels is outperforming other types of content on Insta. There is no surprise there, we've seen it, but actually when you break it down like this is across 77 million posts, so it's a big old study. You'll see that people are still posting the majority of content being image only content, which is fine. It's the easiest to do. And image content still generates actually the most amount of comments than anything else, just single images. Carousel doesn't perform quite as well across all of these. But as you will notice that Reels makes up only about 22% of the content that's shared, so half the amount of single images, but the reach is substantial. And once again, this is all back to this whole thing that I've been talking about for the last 3 slides about recommended media. The reason it's going bigger is because it's going to people that have never seen any of your content before. You're reaching new people. And that is super important for everyone on this call to know, because this goes back to the stuff we were talking about right at the start, which is about how we can generate outsized growth potential for no money. And this is where the potential are. And that's why I'll always kind of put a microscope and highlight the stuff that's okay, so Insta has quite a nice split of demographics. We see that it's both popular in teens and an older demographic. We know that Reels is doing well. We know about the power of recommended content. We know it's potentially not so focused on hashtags anymore, but we'll kind of balance that strategy. And we know through recommended media will generate outsized engagement. So some really good takeaways on that. And for those regular takeaways, here's a little kind of advert break, if you will. Join the Facebook Insiders group that Jordan runs in the most incredible way. Don't know how you run a community of 90,000 people plus, but creds to you on that one. But we talk about this stuff all the time in that group.
And also, to answer very specific questions, we'll get to as many as we can. There are a few people who have asked in the chat hyper specific questions. We are able to do that in the Facebook group in a way that doesn't always work on a live, where we can actually look at your business and your page and what you're doing. So please join us there if you didn't get your questions answered today, because like Andy said, we hang out in there. and we're happy to like deep dive into your specific business or brand. So would love to help.
Great point.
We're
Yeah,
here to
great
help.
point. Definitely. Right. New features. This isn't as heavy. A lot of the stuff that we've spoken about, I know we've focused so long on trends and data, but that's really where the sum total of it was. But let's talk about the most important updates. All of these are live. All of these are ready for you to use right now.
Yeah, I did not know about this one. This is wild to me.
Cool, right? So Instagram shop, I'm sure everyone knows about this by now. So when you have a product catalog in your Insta shop, and let's just say you're in a DM conversation, someone said, oh, do you have this in stock, etc. Be like, yeah, I got this in stock. What size do you need? And just share the product, and people can make that purchase directly within the DM. Incredible experience for both a vendor and consumer of that product. So amazing for small business. If you're an e-com, super useful feature. We also now have the ability to link to posts with a QR code. So a great way of promoting particular posts. Maybe you've got a post promoting an event or a certain product line, because obviously we can pin posts on Insta, and we can pull people back to those posts. So if we really want to, put a promotional strategy around a post, we want to go a bit bigger, we could pin that. Obviously, we can promote it by putting money behind it if we wanted to, or we can just like send out this QR code to our email distribution list to pull people there. And that's always a smart way of just thinking about social and thinking about, marketing in general, to pull people back to a central point, which makes, which becomes a central focal point, the pillar for any particular campaign. And QR codes just make that even easier. So that's live now. And as you can see, this is how you access it here, just through those 3 dots on your Insta post. Super useful. Awesome. Add your sticker for Reels. You would have seen this if you regularly use stories and use stickers in stories. Add yours. I love this as a feature because, as we've always known, one of the golden rules of social is that the more people you have interacting on your content, the further it's going to go. Jordan and I in a couple of weeks will be focusing a lot. We'll do a whole session on kind of community growth and community development, of which Jordan is an absolute pro in. I have no hesitance in saying that.
Thank you.
But yeah, this kind of add yours opportunity really gives a real pleasant call to action to anyone who's on, looking at a reel and can suddenly be like, you know what, I'll give my view, I'll give my take on this outfit, or my take on whatever it is, right? It requires a bit of creative thinking to think about how you can make this apply to yourself. But really, this is something that we'd want to factor into your reel strategy if you want to start going into it. Because I think the whole kind of add yours, doing takes on things, remixing stuff, that really is the new future that's going to go beyond likes and comments. It's much more kind of more rich, in-depth engagement. So,
and if you're like, I don't know what to post, I mean, it's literally giving you a prompt, like share your version of this or share your reaction. So if you're looking for something, if you want an idea, that's what these are for, which is great.
That's such a good way of thinking about it, because I was just thinking about it in having an add your sticker on a post that you've created, but like,
oh yeah, both. Yeah. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's my strategy too. Like, obviously you need to have your own, like what you're putting out, but talking about community, like get involved in what other people are doing too. I would highly suggest not forgetting that part of it. So
very true. Very true. Fantastic call out. On the Facebook, they've done exactly the same. What you're going to see is that this is Facebook Reels. So add your sticker there. You'll notice that, Facebook, Insta, let's just call it Meta in general. They're pushing Reels like nothing else, and they'll continue to do so.
Yeah.
So not only have they added this add your sticker, if you've recently posted on Insta Reels, you would have seen a prompt to say, do you want to put this on Facebook too? They really want you to cross-post your content across multiple platforms, actively encouraging it. Historically, it's been a bit kind of frowned upon in social media marketing pro communities. They can't post the same thing on multiple platforms. Here, Facebook very much want you to do so. They want you to take your content and proliferate it across different platforms. Big call out, though, is that don't take your watermarked TikTok post and put that as a reel, because Instagram are doing everything they can to kill the reach of that. In fact, they've been caught like stripping the audio from those videos as well. So don't take that stuff from TikTok. Try and just produce it natively. either using maybe like an Adobe app, like Adobe Rush maybe. So create it in a independent platform and then kind of post it across these different platforms. You could use content changers to post that maybe for your Insta Reels, but taking that approach means that you're not going to be penalized by taking it from TikTok and then trying to put it on Facebook Reels. You can create one short form video, and as we said at the beginning, proliferate that across multiple different platforms. Sorry for the boring slide. This was taken out of a investor presentation for Facebook, but it's such an important thing to call out. It's about that recommended media thing that we've been talking about. Right now in your Facebook feed, 15% of your content does not come from those that you follow, comes from what Facebook deems that you're going to like, thanks to their kind of algorithm, their AI recommendation feed. That's going to double more by the end of the year, and next year reach 50%. So as you can see, increasingly, this isn't a popular move for everyone. There's a whole big backlash to Instagram making these strides over the last few weeks. But it's going to happen. It's the way that the world is moving. TikTok has simply changed the game for social. So that is where I think we have great growth potential on Facebook. That's why we're starting to see an increase in organic engagement, because now we have an opportunity to reach new people. We can add collaborators on Facebook videos to give people credit. So, when Jordan and I are doing a Facebook video, we can tag that, so Jordan gets recognized in the credit and it appears in both of our feeds. We've seen this a lot with
we should do this too. We never have.
We really should take our own advice.
Maybe by the next week we'll have it.
We should do it. To be fair, only came out a week ago, so
okay, fine. I feel less bad about it.
It's not like us having some horrible handles mismatched across different channels. Like we should have done that before. Exactly. So right, Twitter. If anyone wants to edit tweets, if you join Twitter Blue,
editing tweets.
Yeah, so it's been the thing that Twitter's wanted to do for a long time, but it's now making users pay to do it. So if you're really into Twitter, this will be a thing for you. The thing that is useful on Twitter, despite all of the highly publicized ongoings on that are happening around the Twitter takeover, what will happen there, I don't know. But the professional profiles that you can create on Twitter, I wouldn't suggest doing this unless you actually have a Twitter presence right now. But if you are a business and have a Twitter presence, I would recommend this. Creating your account into a professional profile, you get a whole load of new features. You've got this little location option. So if anyone looks at your profile, it's no longer just looking at like, your profile name and a description. It's like a proper business profile. So definitely recommend any business doing that if you have a Twitter presence. And Twitter, if you're into kind of long form content, they're making a lot of strides with their notes feature. So this is potentially an option if you do lots of long form, like blog orientated content. Twitter notes could actually be a place for you, because you might have seen in Twitter, if you regularly frequent the platform, you'll notice that the popularity of threads have increased, and threads are a kind of a bit of a hacked way of putting together something long, so hence the reason that the notes feature exists. So could be an opportunity. It's brand new. What also is brand new, and this is going to be rolling out over the next month or so, which is Twitter is becoming a podcasting platform. So in the middle, if you use Twitter right now, in the middle you'll have this Spaces tab, which Spaces are kind of like your live audio, drop in to join a session or start a session, etc. Your audio only social, akin to Clubhouse. But what they want to do is get into podcasting too. And for anyone that runs a podcast, aka you, Jordan,
I was very curious about this. I did not know anything about this until I was looking at your slides.
I think they're gonna make quite a big deal about this, and it starts to make sense because if they're going to double down on audio, so if you've got a podcast already, promoting it on Twitter would then be a kind of no-brainer. And if you've got people running you're doing a podcast there, you're generating an audience through the podcast, and you think, on a Friday afternoon, we'll do a half an hour AMA, like drop in, do a live session, then obviously Twitter can facilitate that through your Twitter Spaces. So I think that makes sense as a concept, but I'm still a little bit skeptical about Twitter's growth potential, to be honest, at the moment. So we'll take a bit of a wait and see, but it could be one good one for you to try though, Jordan, to be honest.
And just to give you a heads up, we have like 5-ish minutes left. I don't know how many more platforms.
I'm on it. Don't
Okay,
you worry. It gets a bit
perfect.
quicker now.
Perfect.
So yeah, LinkedIn link stickers. So now we can actually add links to our LinkedIn posts, because we always know that if we ever use a link in a LinkedIn post, the post bombs. It never does well. So now we can actually embed it in the image. That is a massive update.
Amazing.
And we can also pin comments on LinkedIn now. So comments really drive content growth on LinkedIn. So the more that you can pin comments to encourage really positive discussion, that is a super useful update. TikTok, they've got this new order center, so you can even track your orders now. You can basically become a mini Amazon. So if you really want to look at the Amazon of social, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff happening on TikTok. In particular, this whole TikTok shopping experience they're really building out. So like live shopping, the ability to run kind of like ads within your TikToks. And this is how it looks. So it's a really native experience. And that all then links into that order center that we were just talking about. Also, they roll out this QR code feature as well. So if you want to promote your profile, so this isn't about promoting your individual TikTok, it's about promoting your profile through a QR code. You know, we can do that on Insta, so the same thing. Good updates on YouTube. They've improved the shorts editing tool. So if you don't have a budget for any video editing software, then YouTube have shipped that. And also, if you've got any kind of long video that you have, you can edit that into a short. Literally press that button and it's going to take it into that 60-second short. So just choose the section you want to take. So they're really making it as much easier to create shorts content. Sorry for the text heavy slide. Once again, this is from a big YouTube presentation. The high level here is that the YouTube accounts that are running long form video and shorts tend to be growing better than anything else. So, you know, shorts are really helping to make those channels more popular. And as a result, you know, because this is all going to your new audiences through a new kind of recommendation engine, shorts is the thing that's really driving the growth of YouTube. Pinterest idea pins, you can now promote other boards. So like, look at this one, like check out my board for plant-based tips. So idea pins are like Pinterest stories. So when you're like, hey, I've got more here, if you like this, you know, go to my board for more. So it just allows like cross promotion of your stuff. So it's a really useful update. Pinterest analytics are now available on your mobile app. So if Pinterest is a thing for you, you can now just go on your mobile app and, you know, have a look at those real-time analytics. Nice and simple. And Snapchat have rolled out this new dual feature, exactly like BeReal. So as you can see,
who would have thought?
everyone's on it. So it's a kind of like, you know, take a photo and your reaction and everyone posting at the same time type of scenario. And there you go. See, 5 minutes, 5 platforms, amazing. No drama. So there we go. Behaviors shifting towards short form video. Organic engagement looks like it's on and up on Facebook and Instagram. Both of those top two, super important. We've spoken loads about AI content recommendations, which is much more beneficial if you're a smaller brand without massive followers, less good if you're Kylie Jenner, for sure, because less about follower numbers, effectiveness of hashtags. Think about that a little bit, maybe test it out a little bit. YouTube, I'm very buoyant on growth of potential of YouTube. You can see the amount of incredible statistics from YouTube today. And why view-through rate will become an increasingly important metric, because everyone's pivot to short form video. View-through rate is about video completions. The more people that complete videos is the #1 growth driver for all of the algorithms. That's what they rank the most. The people that complete that video are more likely to be recommended to more and more feeds. So with any piece of short form video you create a very strong hook up front, keep it short, and keep people watching to the end. Is the kind of 3 tips for that. And with that, 3 minutes to go. I think
that's amazing.
I managed it.
I mean, truly incredible. And the chat agrees. Sheila says, great info. Alberto says, thank you, great information. And then Bruce said, gotta give Andy props for really going all out with these stats, which I do too, because I could not put this presentation together even a little bit. So we appreciate you so much, Andy. Oliver says, thanks, loads of useful info and stuff I didn't know had been added. So, I mean, yeah, we're here every month with the recap for the month that happened prior, because this is so much work, as we've all been saying. So thank you again, Andy, for doing so much work, but we're here to do it for you. So you can tune back in, subscribe to either the Adobe Express YouTube channel, or watch us on Behance, or hang out on LinkedIn. And like I said, you can, or like you said too, you can join us in the Facebook group where we are, every day. So if you have a question in between or want info about your specific brand or business, you can hang out with us there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think, for those questions that didn't get answered today, and I always hate it because I speak for so long that I don't have the opportunity to answer questions. Yeah, please go to the Insiders group. Jordan and I hang out in there. I'll answer the stuff. Of course, you can watch it on catch up, but if you want the slides as well, just go ahead and drop a message in his Insiders group, and I'll send you a link to the slides, which I really should have a link prepared right now, but alas.
That's okay. We'll do that for next time.
Yeah.
We can drop it. I think everywhere it's streaming, we can drop it in like the caption or in the comments. So we can do that for folks. And yeah, you can follow us. We post about our little social media tips throughout the week too. So you can follow us at Jordan Danae Ellis and at Andy R. Lambert. I think that's it. Yeah. Subscribe. And thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll see you in our next video.
See you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Andy.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, chat.